This is the Bicentennial of the Battle of New Orleans. Here we're here in St. Bernard Parish to recreate, as near as possible to the original site, the 5 battles of the land campaign. Last night we did the night battle of the 23rd of December, and today we're going to do 3 battles. This is the big day. The 3 battles leading up to what everybody thinks of as the Battle of New Orleans. First, this morning we're going to do the reconnaissance in force, where General Pakenham sent forward his men to see just what the American position was like and figure out whether he could assault it or not. Following that, we will have the artillery duel, where Pakenham was trying to knock out some of the American guns, and of course the Americans were trying to knock out the British guns. And then the last one today is actually another battle on the 8th of January. It's the one that everybody seems to forget about, the British victory on the West Bank. What people I think are not familiar with is the fact that the British are extremely well-trained troops and fought exactly the same way as the Americans, and vice versa. It's not the case that the Americans are these smart hillbillies with coonskin caps who can hide behind trees. The American troops, the trained American troops, fought exactly like the British, and indeed were very good. The militia, however, were not as good as the regulars. It's one of the things that encouraged the British to attack at this particular spot in New Orleans, even though they were down in numbers for what they should have to attack this position. Most of the American defenders were militia, and in previous battles in America, the militia always ran. That actually is another thing that people might not be aware of. It's often said that the British outnumbered the Americans. Yes, they did, but they were not in sufficient numbers to do what they were trying to do. In order to take this sort of position, every book of warfare at the time said that they should outnumber the enemy 3 to 1. They barely outnumbered the enemy 2 to 1.
Well, I'm Major General Andrew Jackson, and we're here today to put the British out of the notion they ever set sail for American soil again. I've always had this feeling all my life, ever since I was a boy, since I was old enough to fight. I fought during the War of Independence, and I intend to end the whole fire right here at Line Jackson.
Tell us about the reenactment that we're watching here today.
Well, the reenactment you'll be watching here today was something that happened on the 1st of January, and when the very beginning of the year 1815, the British tested Jackson's artillery line, and they brought their cannon out, and they engaged the American cannons. Of course, some of the cannons were manned by the Bicentennials that were men of John Lafitte's group. They had quite a shootout back and forth with the artillery, and I think that once that was over, they discovered there that was not a good thing to do, in my opinion, because they had took sugarcane barrels of sugarcane, and put them near their guns to provide protection from the American artillery line. And there was as many men injured, I understand, from the flying debris and pieces of lumber and sugarcane as there was from the shot. So that was the way that whole affair turned out. It was not very successful.
Tell us, why were the Americans able to defeat the British Army?
I think mainly because many of them, when you come down to the whole matter, it was their love of freedom, because they just was not going to give it up. And my father, Andrew Jackson Sr., who died before I was born, had a statement that he often lived by. He said it was hard to defeat even a small dog in his own yard. I think these people here are in their yard, and somebody come and tried to defeat them, and they was not about to move out of it.
What are the key points in the reenactment, and who do we have here today?
Well, we have many regiments of militia, because most battles, just about any battle in the War of 1812 era, would probably be primarily militia. Because of America's small standing army, there was not that many. Our army was not that large, the trained American army wasn't. So we've got many regiments. We've got regiments of militia from Tennessee, from Kentucky, from Mississippi. We've got men from just about everywhere. We have Choctaw Indians that are allies with us. We have, of course, the Baratarians, John Lafitte's men, who just delivered a great supply of powder to my man that was promised. And we have, I guess I command one of the most nondescript armies on the face of creation, sir. But put together, I think they will more than do what's required.
I'm from Los Angeles, and I like to do historical reenactments. And in this case, I go out for the anniversaries. There's a lot of 200th anniversaries going on. So I go to Europe for some of the Napoleonic events, and I've done 2 War of 1812 events. One was in Ontario, Canada, and now I'm in New Orleans for the 200th.
What did you think of this reenactment here today?
Oh, it's very, very well run, and they got things on the ball. No fun fighting in an ex-swamp, but it's still, we like the whole ambiance of the place, and what we like, it's been very well organized, and we're having a grand time. A little chilly, but that's authentic for the period.
The red coats of the British Army were traditional. It didn't matter that they were red because at this time we're looking at armies using muskets. Why did they use muskets instead of rifles? Because muskets can be loaded and fired 4 times a minute. A rifle might be more accurate but can only be fired once a minute. So most regular armies, no, I won't even qualify that, all regular armies of the period used muskets in the whole. The colored uniforms didn't really matter what color the uniform was because the musket is not terribly accurate. It will deviate 5 feet within 100 yards in any direction other than up. That's why the troops stand shoulder to shoulder and all fire together. It's weight of shot sent down the field, not accuracy.
What contributed to the outcome with the Americans eventually winning?
What contributed to the outcome was really luck. Everything that could go right for the Americans went right. Everything that could go wrong for the British went wrong.
Tell us the significance of this bicentennial and why this history needs to be preserved.
This history needs to be preserved because, sadly, people don't realize that without this victory, America might not exist today. The Louisiana Purchase was actually illegal. The land should have gone back to Spain rather than Napoleon selling it. If Britain had won here, then the treaty did not apply. The British commissioners in Ghent were very clear that the treaty was signed status quo antebellum. That means everything the way it was before the war started. And before the war started, the Louisiana Purchase was considered illegal by every country in the world but Napoleonic France and the United States. By the time this battle was fought, Napoleon was in exile. So only the United States thought that this land legally belonged to them.
Tell us your reaction to all the events of the bicentennial and why this is important for people to remember, particularly young people.
The events of the bicentennial are extremely interesting. It's the sort of thing that we have to remember because there are so many myths built around it, and I don't see the point of building your history on myths. You want to know the truth. The idea that the British did not know how to fight, for example. How good did American troops have to be if the British didn't know how to fight? Of course they knew how to fight. That's why the victory was so important. It's also there's also an idea that this was the last battle of the War of 1812. Actually, it wasn't. There was another one that the British won, because after they left here, they didn't say, "Oh, that's it, we're going home." They attacked Fort Boyer and were going to take Mobile, and the plan there would have been to offload in that deep water port, to march across the country to Baton Rouge, and once Baton Rouge was taken, which had been a British city, how about that? It used to be called New Richmond when that was British West Florida. They would then have marched down the river, cutting the city off from communications.
Why is this such a significant battle?
Well, sir, we won our independence at Yorktown in 1781. But I think we're going to confirm to the world our independence here at Lyon Jackson. In other words, I think when this whole affair is over, that all the nations of the world will know that this is not a new, young child nation that can be easily trounced on without any impunity.
My name is Robert Evans, and I'm a direct descendant of Lieutenant Colonel Sir William Patterson, who is the commanding officer of the 21st Royal North British Fusiliers at the Battle of New Orleans. He was a career soldier with the 21st. He spent most of his military career with them, started out in Ireland during the Irish Rebellion in the 1790s, then went on to command the regiment through many campaigns, ended up in the Mediterranean. One of the lesser-known campaigns of the British Army at the time, because that was when Wellington was commanding the main British Army in the Peninsular War. So they were a little forgotten about. But then reinforcements were needed in America, and so Lieutenant Colonel Patterson's regiment, the 21st, was needed to go out, and went out, took part in the battles of Bladensburg, Baltimore, and finally New Orleans. He was wounded during the battle. We have a copy of his obituary. He died in the 1840s, happily of old age rather than in action, but he was hit in the right knee by, so the story goes, an American rifle ball, which, again, quoting from the obituary, left him lame for the rest of his life. But he went on to be promoted to full general. As it was knighted, was given the Royal Guelphic Order by King William IV, and died in the 1840s.
As a direct descendant of a British officer who fought in the Battle of New Orleans, what's your thoughts as you take a look at these British troops involved in the reenactment?
The first thought, in one word, is wow. It's so wonderful to be here finally. You know, something that has been really instilled in me from a very early age by my family is that history, family history, is very, very important indeed. And to see redcoats here at New Orleans again, and to be, you know, on the actual field where it all happened, to walk the ground that he walked on, is absolutely amazing.
My name's Angelo. I'm a city judge in a little town called Marksville, Louisiana, and of course we're celebrating the 200th bicentennial of the Battle of New Orleans, of which we have ancestral relatives and so forth, and so it's just been a joyous occasion to come to Chalmette and get in on this real fine event.
What went through your mind when the reenactment was taking place?
Well, reminiscent of what maybe these men would have gone through and the local community would have suffered through. And of course, war is very, very treacherous. It's a very bad experience. But as Americans, when we have a war, it's the best of all wars, and so it was with the Battle of New Orleans.
I came here from Austin, Texas with the Texas Military Forces Living History Detachment. We're with the Texas Military Forces Museum. We're the official living history detachment of the Texas National Guard. We came out to be part of an incredible event, the 200th anniversary of the Battle of New Orleans.
What went through your mind during the reenactment?
Well, this is, for a lot of our guys, the first time that we've done a War of 1812 event. So it's very dramatic, using flintlocks for the first time because we're used to doing 20th century weapons and Civil War weapons. But the idea that we're so close to the actual ground on such an important anniversary, and to see the long lines of British troops out there advancing toward us, it was a very exhilarating and exciting moment, a real honor to be part of it.
I'm from Lakeway, Texas. Our group, as Jeff Hunt just said, represents the Texas Military Forces Museum. We came out here because this is one of the most incredible War of 1812 events, probably the largest one ever conducted in history. And special events like this, a lot of our people have been going to, for some of us, for over 30 years. And so this was one certainly not to miss. And as a side note, I had a direct ancestor who fought here with the 1st Regiment West Tennessee Militia. So, and that is the portrayal that we are doing here today is Tennessee Militia.
Tell us about him. What was his name and what did he do?
His name was Britton Moon, and he was in Alexander Hill's company, and he was a private. And unfortunately, documentation from that time period is very sketchy at best, and so his complete service record I don't know, but he did serve here, and very proud of him, obviously.
What went through your mind during the battle?
Well, being in charge of a company, my biggest responsibility was to make sure that all my men did what they were supposed to, when they were supposed to, and get them back out of there without getting hurt. So there's a lot of gunfire, a lot of cannon fire, and so my thing that I was working with the most is just making sure I got all my guys back okay.
I'm from Clarksville, Tennessee, and I'm here because we started a trek on the 16th of November of 2014, representing 1814 from Montgomery County, Tennessee. We boarded the flatboats. We did a reenactment of boarding actual keelboats and flatboats, bringing the militia down to New Orleans.
What do you think of the reenactment? What went through your mind during the battle?
Oh, it's tremendous. I'm the battalion commander of the Tennessee Militia. We have about 188 men in the battalion, and it's really interesting bringing men together from all over the country. And this morning I found out we have men from Canada, England, Sweden. We have men from all over the world attending the reenactment.
Well, I came here from Mobile. Our family is originally from this area of the Felicianas, and my fourth great-grandfather was one of the very few Americans killed on the battlefield at Chalmette on January the 8th, 1815. And he left behind a 2-month-old daughter whom he had not met because he was called to muster before she was born, and so they carried on the genes.
What's your reaction and what went through your mind during the reenactment?
Well, it was very surreal to actually have been standing at the spot where my ancestor died, and to think about what transpired there and how he actually, it transpired where he threw himself into the fray.
I'm from Houston, and we came to watch the reenactment. I love military history. I also collect antique toy soldiers, and I write articles for collectors' magazines, and the editors asked me to write one about this. So I wanted to see it, take some photos, talk to some of the guys taking part.
What was your reaction to what you saw here today?
It's very good. It's very realistic. You really get a whiff of black powder, and costumes are great. Everybody really knows what they're doing.
Why is it important that people preserve this history?
Well, it's the old thing. If you don't know your history, it's really pretty hard to go forward. And there was so much important about this battle. It could have totally changed the way America is.
I'm from Auburn, Alabama. My husband grew up down here, and we came down to see the reenactment.
What do you think of it?
It was great. We thought it was great. We're coming back for the next battle. It's really exciting.
I came out here today because with it being the 200th anniversary, being a bicentennial of the Battle of New Orleans, I really just had to see how it was going to be commemorated, and I'm just so excited that the battle happened here and that this event is happening here. And bicentennials are such just wonderful anniversaries that I just really wanted to be a part of history. I was a history major in college, so I'm just kind of a history buff anyway, and I wanted to also learn more about this war and its significance to United States history, and I just think it's great it's right here in New Orleans.
I'm from Honolulu and came here today especially for the War of 1812, the Battle for New Orleans, with Stephen Ambrose Tours.
What do you think of it?
I think it's great. Excellent reenactment, and glad we came. It was worth it. That and the dining, of course.
Tell us, what did you enjoy the most about the reenactment?
I enjoyed how realistic the battle scenes were that we saw, and all the costumes and the reenactors and it looked like a genuine war.
I came in from Pensacola, Florida to participate in this reenactment here in town. We're here representing the Blue-Gray Alliance, which we do the Civil War period, and we're hoping to come back in town and work with these people and possibly put Civil War on as well to complement the event that's happened this weekend.
What's your reaction to what you've seen here today?
Very impressive.
Yeah, I'm up down here from Canada. We decided to come down and do this anniversary battle. But I left all the snow and the cold back home just to come down here and try and get some warm and sun, and find I brought the weather with me.
What did you think of the reenactment? What went through your mind as a British soldier?
As a British soldier and officer, it looked awesome on the field out there in the mud. But it was one of the biggest ones I've been to. We're doing the borderline battles. There's always not enough reenactors come out, and this one here it looked awesome with the American lion on that wall.
What's your impression of this entire weekend of activities?
It's been great. This is the biggest battle that we've attended. My husband and his crew have done 16 different reenactments over this past year. This is the largest.
I'm here dressed as Choctaw, part of the Choctaw militia. And we are here taking care of the left flank on the battlefield.
How significant were the Choctaw in the Battle of New Orleans?
in my opinion, very, very, very significant. There were not very many. I'm not entirely sure as to the quantity, but there were quite a few of us there.
What went through your mind during the reenactment?
It's amazing how open you are. Typically, as a native reenactor, native living historian, when you take part in a battle reenactment, you're not out in the middle of the field. You're hiding behind trees and taking cover. And being out there in the middle of the field, that's absolutely amazing.
We're from Mandeville, Louisiana, and we came out here to see the reenactment of the Bicentennial celebration, and we came with our Boy Scout troop from Mary Queen of Peace, and I brought my little boy Dylan, and I'm with my friend Mary Beth and her little boy Aiden.
Why is it important? Why'd you bring your children out here today?
To teach them about history of our region.
What was your reaction? What was their reaction to the event?
They enjoyed the cannons and the gunfire, and we really enjoyed all the authentic costumes.
How does it make you feel being so close to history?
It's surprising because you don't realize it every day, and it makes you feel good that there's this many people that are interested in teaching our kids about it.
I'm from Covington, Louisiana, and I brought my little boy Aiden here today and my daughter Megan here today, and I think it's important for them to learn about history. This is a part of their history. We're from Louisiana, so this is a part of our local history, and I think it's important that we don't lose that for our children, that we pass it down to them.
What was your reaction to the reenactment?
We loved it. Aiden really enjoyed it. He liked the cannon fire and the sound of the guns, and I enjoyed seeing the history come alive.
I'm from New Orleans, and I brought my son out here to experience the reenactment because he'd been learning about it in school, and I wanted him to experience it firsthand because it is the bicentennial of the reenactment.
Did you know that you live so close to history?
I really didn't realize I lived this close to it, but I'm really excited about being out here.
This has been a fantastic event with that's happened due to the cooperation of many partners, governmental and non-governmental, and charitable organizations and philanthropists. This has really helped put New Orleans on a map, not just as a regular tourism destination, but a cultural tourism destination. So people can come here to learn about things that have been very important to our country's history. So this has helped bring history to life. It reminded people about the consequential events that happened here 200 years ago during the Battle of New Orleans. Every aspect of this battle was very important, from the night battle to the artillery duel to the December 28th reconnaissance in force to the climactic battle on January 8th.
Tell us, why is it important that people learn about this history?
Because this is where the American-English alliance started. Previously, even after we had won our independence from Great Britain, the British had a very condescending view of America. We were a pesky, second-rate, rebellious colony. After the Battle of New Orleans, they developed a mutual respect was developed between the two countries that formed the strongest, most important international alliance in the last 200 years.
Well, this is an incredible experience for us. You know, when I think back to the battlefield conditions that must have been here in 1815, I'm appalled and horrified by the bravery of those men who stood under such heavy fire facing the American lines. They died in their hundreds, and it was ironically because they were so well trained, they were so experienced as soldiers, they didn't break. If they had been green or inexperienced, that troop would have broken on that field, and they would have probably regrouped and taken New Orleans the next day. Incredible feeling to actually come out here and see so many reenactors celebrating and making memorable this 200-year celebration.
What's your reaction to the size of the crowd that's out here?
Oh, it's fantastic. I love the way people get engaged in this. And I don't know if you're aware, but we're supporting a permanent memorial that's going to be placed at the battlefield at Chalmette itself, which will celebrate the lines there. And that will become a real tourist attraction, both for New Orleans, but also for visitors coming into New Orleans. And I think it's important because this is 200 years. We're not here as the British celebrating a defeat. We're here celebrating 200 years of peace and alliance, and probably the greatest alliance between countries of the modern age, the UK and the USA. Close friends for 200 years.
If people have questions like more information or want to come for next year, what should they do?
If people need more information, obviously they should refer to the website of the St. Bernard Tourist Commission. Go to the tourist office. There's tons of information there. Come and see the battlefield, and they'll be up to speed on everything that's going to be happening next year, because we are going to continue this. There are going to be changes. This, as you see it today, is the biggest collection of people in War of 1812 uniforms on this site since the war.
Next year we're going to have another big event. We're going to hopefully have the new Peace Garden constructed over at the Chalmette Battlefield. We're going to have hundreds of reenactors down here. So this is going to be something that we're going to try to keep going in order to reinforce St. Bernard Parish's role as a center of some very significant historic happenings.